Hi, everyone. We'll begin in a minute or so to allow more people to join. While we're waiting, there's a poll question on screen. It'd be wonderful if you fill out those poll questions. Thanks. Okay, we're going to get started. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today for this Peer Spotlight webinar on undergraduate research. Our panelist today is Dr. Christine Johnson, Associate Vice President for Research at Oklahoma State University. Thanks so much for joining us today, Christine. So she's going to be covering how Oklahoma State began and has been using InfoReady for some undergraduate research processes. It's a great story to tell. Glad she can join us to share that. Before we get going, a couple slides to share with you. One about the logistics. So the webinar today is scheduled for 60 minutes, and about 20 to 30 minutes of that will be for the presentation, and then the balance will be for Q&A. You may have noticed that the phones are muted. So if you do have questions, please submit those using the Q&A function. And then we'll be able to answer those as we can. If we aren't able to get to all the questions today, we'll definitely reach out to you via email to continue with that conversation. And then there are a couple poll questions that will be launched throughout the webinar. You may have seen the one that was on screen when you first logged in. It'd be great if you share that information with us. And then lastly, the webinar recording will be available sometime in the next few days. So we are recording the webinar. We'll host it. We'll edit and then host it somewhere. We'll share the link with the group in case you aren't able to stay the whole time, if you have colleagues that weren't able to make it. That's always a popular question. Is this being recorded? So it is. Before turning it over to Christine, I just wanted to share this slide with you. InfoReady is a pretty flexible tool. It's being used in a variety of ways on the different institutions we work with. So here is a partial list of different, we call them use cases. Not all of these are not all institutions are using the system in all of these ways. It's really a mix. So you can see on screen here that there are some undergraduate research uses, and so we'll cover those as today. Chris, I think Dr. Johnson may bring up limited submissions 1 or 2 times. That's another way people use the system, but you can see there's a wide range of ways to use the platform. Now, having said all that, I present to you Dr. Christine Johnson from Oklahoma State University. All yours, Christine.
Hello, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here today. Thank you for the invitation. So as you can see, I'm going to share some of our utilization of InfoReady Review and how we've utilized it specifically with undergraduate research activities to improve efficiency and increase participation. Next slide. I wanted to provide a quick outline and overview of what I hope to convey. And first of all, I'm going to share some information about Oklahoma State University with you. And then the focus of my sharing will be on how we here at OSU have implemented InfoReady Review, utilizing 2 examples from undergraduate research opportunities. And if time permits, also talking about limited submissions. And hopefully it'll become very clear to you that our outcomes have been increased efficiency and increased participation. And I also want to end the presentation by talking about how we plan to utilize InfoReady going forward. Next slide. So some fun facts about Oklahoma State University, or fast facts. Next slide. So Oklahoma State University is just under 25,000 students, and about 80% of those students are undergraduates, and about 1/4 of all of our students are from out of state. We are located in Stillwater, America, which is about halfway between Tulsa and Oklahoma City. And you might imagine a tall grass prairie. We are actually founded, when we were founded, we were known as Princeton of the Prairie. And our school colors are orange and black because we were based on Princeton. Stillwater itself has just under 50,000 residents. And by the way, that includes students in the count too. So you can see that we are very much a campus community. In terms of academics, we are a land-grant university, so we are focused on affordability and accessibility. We have 7 academic colleges that serve undergraduates, plus a veterinary medicine school and a doctor of osteopathic medicine school, which is located in Tulsa. We are part of the Big 12. Our mascot is the cowboy, and more specifically, Pistol Pete. And we are known for a few things. Our current tagline is America's Brightest Orange. And we do have a few famous alumni. Probably the ones that are most widely known would be Garth Brooks. He used to perform at some honky tonks here in Stillwater. And when he was in college, by the way, he was on the track team when he was in college through the Javelin. And then also another famous alum that we have is T. Boone Pickens, who was an oil and gas businessman and a very significant philanthropic donor to our university. Next slide. I have to say that Oklahoma State University is a beautiful, beautiful campus. It truly is. And at this time of the year, things are budding and blooming. Spring is here in full force. Actually in 1930, our university president, Henry Bennett, came up with a 25-year campus master plan to lay out how all the buildings should be developed and how the campus should grow. And for the most part, we have stuck with that campus master plan, and I think it's been to our benefit. Next slide. All right, now into the utilization of InfoReady Review. I want to say that we acquired InfoReady Review only in November of 2021, so only 6 months ago. And the 2 examples that I want to share with you today both pertain to undergraduate research programs. The first example of implementing InfoReady Review is for our undergraduate scholarship program that is called the Niblack Research Scholars Program. And this program is one of the largest undergraduate scholarships on campus in terms of the dollar amount, the value of the scholarship, and the amount that goes to the student. So therefore, it is very prestigious. It is also very competitive. We have about 12 students selected to be part of each year's scholar cohort. And this program is targeted to pre-med students. So it is a select group of students and based on their major. The scholarship is funded by a philanthropist, Dr. John Niblack. And the picture on the right there is Dr. Niblack with one of our undergrad scholars. So Dr. Niblack has a very important connection to the world right now. He is the former vice president of Pfizer, and specifically of product development at Pfizer. He received his bachelor's degree at Oklahoma State University, and he was involved in undergraduate research while he was here. And he flies back every year on Niblack Research Scholars Day to meet the students and to hear their presentations. And when he flies into Stillwater, yes, we do have a commercial airport. But he flies in on his private jet to attend and listens to the finishing cohort of students. So I wanted to say this is a very important program that we do operate out of the Office of the Vice President for Research. And Dr. Niblock has a lot of expectations about how we're going to run the program. So therefore, anything we do with this program, we are very sensitive that we do it first class rate. I wanted to just quickly mention that the program is unique in the sense that the students are, of course, mentored by a faculty sponsor, but in addition to the faculty sponsor, there's also a graduate student mentor who works with them probably more closely. And that graduate student mentor also receives a monetary scholarship for their contribution. So it really is a win-win-win for the faculty member, for the undergraduate, and for the graduate student. Next slide, please. All right, in the past, the applications for this program were submitted, compiled, and reviewed all by hard paper. And if you can take a look at this picture, this is actually our staff member's office where we've got about 30, 40 applications sitting there. There's a bottle of Excedrin or aspirin there. You know, it looks like a big headache. The applications themselves are rather complex. They have several components. The students have to submit an essay. They have to provide their university transcript, and they also have to provide a resume. In addition to those components, which are uploaded now, but in addition to those components, there also are 2 letters of support from faculty members. One is a letter of support from the faculty sponsor, who's going to be the mentor and guide the research project. And the second letter from the faculty is just a general letter of recommendation from a second faculty member. Now, in the past, all of these materials came trickling into the office by paper. And sometimes they literally trickled in one item at a time. A student would bring their essay, and then the next week they'd bring their transcript. And then the next day they'd bring a faculty member's letter of recommendation. And I'm not kidding you, we had file folders all over the place, well, in a drawer, but spread out sometimes. And we would be putting pieces of paper into the students' files. And then, of course, trying to keep track with a checklist of all the components to make sure they were complete or not complete. And typically we had about 35 applications a year. That's really the average, 30, 35 applications. And again, all of this had to be hand compiled and then scanned. You might imagine it took us actually several weeks after the due date to compile all of this. And I want to make a point of saying, even during our major COVID pandemic years, during the social distancing and classes online, even during spring of 20 and spring of 21, we maintained this paper submission and bringing the documents to the office and being hand delivered to the office. So I'm hoping you kind of get the sense of this is crazy, because I joined the Office of the Vice President for Research right after this submission took place in spring of 21. And I thought, oh, we need to make some changes. One thing I'll just say quickly before we move on, in the past, the office solicited about 4, sometimes 5 faculty members from disciplines in the medical sciences to review all 35 applications. So again, about 4 or 5 reviewers asking to do a lot, asking to review 35 applications. Next slide. All right, currently, let's talk about our first implementation of InfoReady. It was used for this program. We started soliciting applications in November, the month we acquired InfoReady Review. And we used this as our first out of the chute, let's go for this. And I'll tell you that I did have a few concerns as we launched this competition. And one of the concerns had to do with barriers for students. Now, I was not necessarily concerned with students uploading their documents, because quite frankly, these typical college-age students in their 20s are not going to have a problem navigating an online application and getting documents uploaded. However, what I did worry about was them following some very specific instructions about requesting their letters of support, because we did rely on the students to go inside of InfoReady and as part of their application to identify the 2 faculty members who would be writing letters and to request those letters. They had to, hit the request button, when they were saving a draft application. So my concern was, would the undergraduates do this in a timely manner? Hopefully they'd give their faculty members sufficient time, leadway, to provide the letters and not wait until the last minute. And I should also make note, I kind of took a risk and I decided that we would have all application materials due on the same day. I didn't know how to do it otherwise. So in addition to the students providing their information, then the letters of support from 2 faculty members also had to be submitted all on the same day. I was actually a bit more concerned about InfoReady and this new process being a barrier to the faculty, specifically for their letters that they would prepare and upload. I was, concerned that they might not read all of the instructions. Would they be able to follow the instructions? The instructions said use letterhead. For the faculty research sponsors, they were given very specific information about what to include in their letters, such as, responding to specific aspects of what the research project would look like. So, whereas the second faculty member providing a letter, they could just provide a general letter support and it didn't have to have specifics. So again, I was a bit concerned there. Would the faculty be able to follow the instructions? Would it make sense to them? So next slide. Well, I have to tell you that I was very, very pleased with our first competition for undergraduate students in the area of research activities. We increased our number of applications by 15%. I really did not change the solicitation process at all. We utilized the same methods, mostly emailing faculty members and emailing students that met certain criteria. They were in certain majors and they had a GPA over a certain cut point, and that part stayed the same and stayed parallel between all of our years. But we did increase our number of applications. We went from 35 to 46 applications this year. So obviously it was not a barrier for our students, nor was it a barrier for our faculty members. When the application deadline closed, I was only missing 1 letter of recommendation from a second faculty member. And I emailed the faculty member that morning, said we needed their letter, and before noon that day, they had provided their letter. So in terms of my concerns, they really did not turn out to be concerns at all. And quite frankly, it may have been better than this paper method of things trickling in all the time. So I love data spreadsheets. And when the applications came in, of course, I exported the information from the applications into Excel and began sorting and organizing. I can say very confidently that just the aspect of compiling and getting the applications ready to go out for review saved us 3 weeks by using InfoReady, because everything came in the same order for every single application, and every single application was complete. No worries about missing a component. So we saved 3 weeks just right there without checking off lists and scanning documents. These applications were to the reviewers within, I believe it was 2 days after the competition closed. The biggest thing we had to do was to identify who were going to be the reviewers and then get their agreement to serve as reviewers. Rather than having 4 or 5 individuals review 46 applications, we spread the burden, or we spread the opportunity to more faculty members. We had 12 faculty members serve as reviewers, and so then they each reviewed about 11 or 12 applications. So the burden on them was reduced and we had more participation by faculty. The review time was significantly reduced also. We typically had allowed faculty members 4 to 5 weeks to review when there was that large number to review, but we allowed them 2 or 2.5 weeks to review this time. So it cut our review time in half. Next slide. So that's story number 1. Story number 2 has to do with our undergraduate research symposium, which is a campus-wide symposium, an all-day event. It is open to all undergraduate students, regardless of discipline and regardless of what phase in the research process they are. And we offer 3 presentation formats. We offer poster formats, we offer flash talk formats, and we also offer videotaped presentations of performing arts and visual arts that have utilized a research process in their creation. And this event is held in April. It is actually going to be held 1 week from today, and it coincides with the National Council on Undergraduate Research Week. Now, next slide. In the past, and our past is actually really short here. Our very, very first campus-wide undergraduate research symposium was planned for April of 2020. It was intended to be the inaugural event that we would then do annually. And at the time that this was in process back in January, February of 2020, we were utilizing a Google form to receive applications. And by mid-March that year, we had about 60 students apply to participate in the symposium. It goes without saying that the symposium was canceled in 2020 and it was not held. And it was also not held in 2021 because of the pandemic. So 2022, this year, we are planning, knock on wood, an in-person symposium. Next slide. With this particular event, I also had some concerns going in, and my first concern was getting the word out. I'm sure many of you read the Chronicle for Higher Education, and I read an article earlier this week about how disengaged students are and disconnected. I was really worried, would the students become aware of this opportunity? Would they want to participate? So one of our major concerns was just getting the word out. And I'm sure those of you who are administrators on this webinar are always interested in trying to figure out how to get students to participate in activities. So we went on a campaign, and our campaign really was targeted at faculty members, and then hoping the faculty members would nudge, and nag the students to participate. So I'm going to quickly tell you how we advertised the opportunity. And we did this in, I believe it was December and January and into February. So we announced this opportunity in the Graduate College's Monday memo. Our Graduate College puts out a memo every Monday. A version goes to faculty and a different version goes to graduate students, but in the version to faculty, we did announce it, and it went out in 3 different editions during those months. We requested that members of our research committee of faculty council spread the word. We wanted to engage our faculty council representatives. We have a women's faculty council on campus, and we also solicited their assistance in getting the word out. We did send announcements out to all faculty members via the faculty listserv, and I believe those may have gone out twice. We requested that all of the academic college communication coordinators publish it in college newsletters, place it on college calendars, announce it on video screens in the hallways, and those types of things. We are very decentralized campus, and all of our academic colleges have a lot of staff that work directly for that college and focus on that college. So we knew we needed to connect with those communication coordinators. And then we also sent an announcement out to all individuals serving on the Student Services Committee on campus. Again, thinking about extracurricular activities. So these people are generally coordinators for enrollment or honors programs. And so we got the word out to those academic student service individuals about the event. I was also concerned about the quality of the abstracts. We asked students to provide a 350 word maximum research abstract. And in our instructions to students, it very clearly said, please give your faculty research mentor a copy of this before you submit. We want, it should be edited, it should be polished, it should be reviewed by your faculty mentor before you upload it to your application. But again, I was worried, thinking, how well will these abstracts be written? Will they be in 100 different formats? Because again, this is campus-wide, all disciplines. So that was where my second area of concern was, regarding the quality of those abstracts that were, again, provided by the students. In this case, faculty members did not have to upload a letter of recommendation. Everything came in from the undergraduate student. Next slide. So our outcomes for this. We had a 203% increase in our number of applications. We had 182 students submit an application to participate in the event. And again, in regards to my first concern, no concern at all. And actually, I should mention that applications were due on February 25th initially. We had 6 inclement weather days in February here in Oklahoma. We had an ice storm once and a snowstorm once. The university was closed for 6 days in February. It's already the shortest month of the year. 6 of those days, the university wasn't even open. However, it didn't impede anything because it was all online. And as long as you had power, electricity, you could connect to the internet and get your information submitted. So it did not impede participation by students. In terms of quality, I was really impressed. I don't believe I modified a single title at all. In some cases, there was a difference in the use of capitalization, but quite frankly, that does vary by academic discipline or scholarly discipline. So I just let those things go. And I would say that the abstracts, for the most part, came in pretty darn well. In terms of what we think of as a research abstract, they pretty much all hit the mark. They were a little different in their format, but it wasn't too difficult to reformat them. We have now published the conference proceedings online. So even our conference is next week, as I mentioned, and we've had the conference proceedings online for 2 weeks already. So all of these abstracts are online. And once they went online and the program schedule was determined, we emailed the faculty sponsors, and I had only one request from a faculty member that the student's abstract be rewritten. And the faculty member said, this is, I don't know what the student was thinking, but this is not a standard research abstract. And can the student have the opportunity to rewrite and resubmit? And I said, of course, because this is all a learning experience. I want to really focus on efficiency. This is where I was amazed at how we utilized InfoReady Review, how the application information, again, was exported into Excel, and how quickly we had our program determined. So I came into work at probably 8:30 in the morning, and by 10:30 in the morning, the program was set. And that's because I exported the data. And we had asked students to identify their major and lots of things that you would typically ask in an application. We also asked them to identify their faculty mentor's home academic department. Initially, I thought I was going to group the presentations by the student's major. Well, I quickly realized, and I should have realized, that students get very creative when it comes to naming their major. Sometimes they say, well, I'm majoring in sports psychology. Well, we don't have that major on this campus. Or they might say, I am majoring in fashion design. We don't have exactly that major on campus. So that was it. Those things were all over the place. But the field that made the most importance and significance for efficiency was where we asked the student to identify the faculty member's academic department. And I would say with 95% accuracy, they got it right when they entered it. It was open-ended text. It was an open-ended text box. They could fill it in. And about 95% of the time they got it right. And when they didn't get it quite right, I knew what it was. So what we did was we then decided to group the students' presentations by the faculty, mentors, home academic department. Here on this campus, we have identified 6 broad discipline domains, and faculty who are members of the graduate faculty are in one of those 6 domains, and we just utilized that. And I'm not kidding you, within 2 hours, the program was set. And then I did create an online program with links to the abstracts. It took a couple of days to get it all formatted, but it was very, very easy. And at this point, I'm getting small little requests of, could you add this person as a collaborator to the program? And it's very, very easy to do this online. It's not like we sent something off to print. So next slide. I am looking at the time and I know I'm already over my time. So I am not going to talk about limited submissions, but if there are questions about how we've utilized it, I'm happy to answer those. So let's go on to the next slide, please. And hopefully the message is clear that for our outcomes for these 2 examples of undergraduate student research opportunities, we definitely increased efficiency. We saved time and resources with our NIBLOC Research Scholars application together. We saved 5 weeks of processing time, either in compiling the applications, scanning them, getting them ready for review, and then the review process. 5 weeks saved. I'm so far ahead on that program that I've got a little bit of wiggle room to breathe. And that's good because I'm planning this undergraduate research symposium, which is next week. But again, the ease of grouping and creating our schedule of our sessions was very, very easy. It took me 2 hours to do. Of course, we've also eliminated errors. We have not had any misplaced or lost applications, no missing components. And again, we've increased participation. Our applications were up in both of these activities, and for our NIBLOC Research Scholars Program, we more than doubled the number of reviewers. And so that was just a good way to involve more faculty. Next slide. In regards to future implementation, I'll hit this very quickly. Right now, since we acquired InfoReady Review, we are utilizing it only in the division of the Vice President for Research. And we've already had a couple of inquiries from some of our other either academic units or administrative units asking if they could also utilize it. Well, I've wanted to work out some of the kinks and some of the bugs before I turn it loose to others to utilize. But our College of Arts and Sciences, which is our largest college with 24 different academic departments, they have a lot of different internal competitions for both faculty and students. And so they likely will come on board this summer and start utilizing the tool. And of course, our Office of Scholar Development, they are the ones who assist us and are partners with our Undergraduate Research Symposium. And I have a feeling that there'll be another partner coming on board. The other area where we have not yet utilized the tool is with progress reports. We just haven't had a program that's been implemented long enough to have a progress report, but that'll be coming down soon, I anticipate. So next slide. This is my contact information. Again, I'm at Oklahoma State University, and it's relatively simple email address, christine.johnson@okstate.edu. And by the way, do go out and take a look at our research pages. We just moved to a new template earlier last month, and all of our web pages have been updated, and that was one of my projects as well. But I'm really proud of our new web pages. They look like they're finally in the right decade here. And now I'd like to move to the next slide and ask for any questions that you might have. And I know a couple did come in ahead of time. So Carlos, I think you're going to moderate this component. Is that right?
That's right. Thanks so much, Christine, for sharing your story about how you did those 2 undergraduate research programs. 5 weeks. Could you imagine?
Right. Like I said, I've got some breathing room. I'm looking at my calendar of things to do. And you know, in a couple of weeks, it says notify who you've selected to be the new NIBLOC Research Scholars. Well, we did that a month ago.
So I guess one question is, how are other stakeholders reacting to these quicker timelines?
That's a great question. So quite frankly, with our undergraduate research symposium, I don't know how we would have been able to manage all of the necessary parts to that without using a tool like InfoReady Review. I mentioned that it was very quick to put our program together, but then what we needed to do was I needed to send our program outline to our marketing and communications unit for the university, where they started creating branded advertisements for this event. We have A-frames around this campus. There was a picture of one earlier in the slideshow that, you know, they had to do artwork for A-frames, artwork for posters, artwork for emails. And by the time all that artwork came back, and we'd created the online conference proceeding, it kind of all dovetailed. And then we started sharing the program with our constituents on campus and off campus to invite them to come. And we did that, you know, a month before the event. To me, that's about the right amount of lead time. But again, we're thankfully we had enough time. So I think we haven't been rushed is the point with that, with our planning for that event. For the NIBLOC Research Scholars, our very competitive scholarship program for pre-med students, I would say that the students are thrilled to know that they've been selected, because I didn't mention that particular scholarship program pays for them to be on campus during the summer and doing research during the summer. So therefore, they know that they've got a significant amount of money that's going to be coming to their bursar's account to allow them to live on campus this summer. And they found out 4 weeks earlier than what they typically would have.
Wow. I'm sure that's helping people organize their schedules a lot more easily.
Carlos, would you want me to read a couple questions that came in ahead of time?
Well, one thing, we actually have someone that raised their hand. I'm going to allow them to verbally ask their question instead of typing it in. You ready? So, Lakshmi, you had a question. You raised your hand.
Correct. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
So Christine, thank you for this wonderful presentation. I am the director of undergraduate research at Colorado School of Mines. So you got me pretty excited. And I'm in the thick of, preparing our symposium program. So I had a couple questions relating to using InfoReady for the symposium. Sounds pretty exciting. So we currently have a pretty good system of, we have Gravity forms, online student submissions and everything. So that's great. There are a couple bugs in the system, and I was hoping to see if InfoReady might, help us address those. Basically, my question is, or a couple questions are, with the InfoReady, are students able to format their abstract? Like, for instance, when there's chemical formulas and all that kind of stuff, are they able to, format it as subscript, a superscript, whatever is needed? Because we spend a lot of time, tweaking in those details.
Yes.
It's a STEM school. So, there's a lot of Greek letters and all sorts of stuff. Me being from a physics background too, that kind of like, I try my best to tweak all those to represent it the way it should be. So that was one question. And is the InfoReady basically giving you the data, right? And then you make a program, correct? It's not that InfoReady is generating a program. Is that correct?
That is correct. So let me address your first question. every time you implement something new in a program, you should, learn from it, right? Improve it for next time. So next time I will explicitly ask that our undergraduate students submit their abstracts in a Word document.
Okay.
Because we had some submit in PDF file, and it's very difficult to take a PDF file, and you can export it, of course, to Word into a text file, but that's when your formulas are going to likely get askew.
Yes.
And so therefore, but if you do it in words, it seems to be a little bit better, probably because it doesn't have as much coding behind it, and you can easily copy and paste the text. So that would be a recommendation, and that was my observation. If individuals utilized and submitted their uploaded their abstract as a Word document, we had no problems with symbols and fonts and subscripts, superscripts. It was all okay. And in some cases, they also had little text boxes that floated with subscripts, and all of that was actually fine if they submitted it in Word. But if they submitted it as an Adobe PDF, then we had some issues and had to make some more tweaks to it. For your second question, you're absolutely right. We just obtained and exported, once the opportunity for applications closed. The next day, we exported the application information to an Excel file, and then we had to build the program. However, I already mentioned I love working with arrays of columns and rows of information. It's one of my pleasures. And I still get to do it as an administrator every now and then. So I realized quickly that by sorting by the faculty members' academic department, we were going to have a very clean, clear-cut program of how to organize things. And you know what? This might have just been our luck this year, beginner's luck. We could accommodate about 36 posters for each session. And as it turns out, I did some grouping. So I grouped smaller departments with larger departments within biological sciences, for example, or humanities as another example. And so we just kind of fit things together, grouped them so we could have about 36 poster presentations in each session or time frame, and it just kind of fell out. But again, it was working with that data that was pretty darn clean as it came out of InfoReady.
I have one last question, but I'm willing to hold on to that if there are other questions.
Lakshmi, I think you can proceed.
Okay, so my last question was regarding the limited submissions, and also might be a little bit of the symposium. Did you mention that you're using InfoReady for reviewers to review the student applications and submit their recommendations all on InfoReady?
Yeah. So
okay.
So for our NIBLOC Research Scholars Program, where in the past we had 4 or 5 reviewers reviewing 35 applications, we did the reviews within InfoReady, and I assigned 12 faculty members to be reviewers. They agreed, and they got assigned applications. They each got assigned 11 or 12 applications because we wanted each application to have 3 reviewers. So by the time you do your math of 46 times 3, that, and then, divide by however many you think is reasonable for one person to do, I ended up with about 12 reviewers. But they did those reviews within InfoReady. And for this program, the NIBLOC Research Scholars Program, we have a metric. We have a rubric that it's explicitly said in the application materials. Your application will be evaluated on these 5 elements. So each of the reviewers knew what those 5 elements were. And obviously, the better you can describe your rubric and the elements, the more valid you're going to get with your reviewer scores. But again, exporting when it was easy to export the reviewer scores from InfoReady, I met with my colleague, we sat down, looked at the scores, and it was very easy to figure out where our top 12 students were to award them to be in the new cohort.
Thanks, Christine. I look forward to using this.
I look forward to meeting you sometime, maybe in a CUR meeting, a Council on Undergraduate Research, when we're back face to face.
Right. I'm presenting this June. So.
Thanks for your questions, Lakshmi, and thanks, Christine, for providing that feedback. Um, uh, I did have one other note on that for the reporting. So the reports you can download that contain the application information, that'll pull out all the fields from the application form. And so whatever fields you set up in the application form, you can export that as an Excel as well. And you can also, the PDF builder will also let you build the application packets however you need to from the information, from the application information, be it specific files or even including reviews from specific reviewers or specific steps. So a couple different ways to get the information out of the system there. And the other thing, Christine, I think you mentioned you collected reference letters in the system. You use the reference letter feature, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
For the Niblock Research Scholars Program we did, and we had to have 2 different letters. And again, the instructions were different for what we wanted from each one of those faculty members. So for the research faculty sponsor, we wanted them to respond to 4 very specific questions. Whereas for the second person providing a general letter of recommendation, we just needed a general letter of recommendation. So I had to somehow articulate the 2 sets of instructions within InfoReady, and it's possible to do. It's very easy to do once you know how to navigate within the system for your messages that are generated from the system. So it was, it worked well. Like I said, out of 182 applications, no, I misspoke, wrong program. Out of 46 applications we had, I guess what would that have been, like 90 some letters coming in? We only one was missing after the competition closed.
Oh man, I bet that was a relief not having to track that down. So we had a couple questions submitted ahead of time, and I'm going to paraphrase the first one, Christine, because you answered a little bit of this during your presentation. This person said they have good participation in undergraduate research by students, and they work hard in the research labs. They have trouble with their attendance at undergraduate research events and seminars that we organize for them. So you mentioned having the faculty help with that. Yes. Could you elaborate on the success of that and other ways in which you could increase participation in undergraduate research events by students?
Sure. So with our undergraduate research symposium, again, which is this year will be our first one because the other ones were canceled and didn't occur because of COVID. I was really pleased with our participation, and I already identified all the methods that we utilize that we're going through faculty as the conduit of getting the word out. When we reached, I was hoping for 100 applications, first of all. We reached 100 with 10 days left to go, and all those inclement weather days too. When we reached 150, I thought to myself, please stop. It needs to cut off. Thankfully, we didn't get 1,000 applications because for our first year, we need something manageable. One of my colleagues who works in the Office of Scholar Development and Undergraduate Research, she is concerned, again, our first event's going to be next week. She's concerned that some of our students who applied to do poster presentations will not show up. There'll be no shows. So we've been attempting to think about and strategize about how we incentivize the students who applied. We have their abstract, it's posted online in the proceedings, how to actually get them there that day, physically standing with their poster. And we're thinking about offering some, for each session, offering some decent giveaways, doing a drawing of everyone who's present and giving, I don't know, we're still in discussion. We need to come up with this pretty soon. We have a committee meeting tomorrow about this topic, but just really looking for something to incentivize We might do gas cards. I don't know, but something to actually get them to show up on that day. Sometimes the first time you do something, you get a lot of excitement because it's new. And we're going to try to ride the wave with that newness and this being novel. And then next year, it might be more of a challenge for us to get students to participate.
Thanks, Christine. Yeah, well, the proof will be in the pudding in the near future here. So another question we have is about progress reports. And you mentioned that's something you'd like to implement in the future. So in InfoReady, the progress reports help you collect forms to assess any sort of outcomes and impacts on about the program or project that was managed in the system. And so a question for you is, what types of questions or what types of metrics are you looking to collect using progress reports for these undergraduate research processes?
That's a really good question. For our campus-wide undergraduate research symposium, we probably will not do any type of progress report through InfoReady, just because this is really a one-day event. The students actually just come and present for 1 hour. We probably won't do any follow-up. We might, maybe, but if we do anything, not for sure. Maybe we'll do some kind of voluntary survey to get student feedback on how was the event, what could we do better in the future, and we could do that through InfoReady. With our NIBLOC Research Scholars Program, which, by the way, I don't think I mentioned, it's been going on for, I believe now 23 years on campus. So it's a very established program in addition to being prestigious. The students do have progress reports. At the end of every semester, it's a year-long program. They participate a summer semester, a fall semester, and a spring semester. And at the end of each academic semester, they submit a progress report, and it really is more of a narrative document. We ask them to respond to just 2 questions. What progress has been made and what challenges have they encountered? And if they've had challenges, how do they anticipate overcoming those challenges or modifying their project to get to the outcomes that they need to have? We also do have a final report that they submit. That report actually gets edited quite vigorously, and then it gets printed and bound and sent to Dr. Niblock in advance of Niblock Research Scholars Day. So those final reports were very, we want to make sure they look the same, they're in the same format. I'm not sure that we'll utilize InfoReady Review to acquire those reports, and that's just because we have 12 students in each cohort. So it's a manageable group to do. Usually the report template goes out via email, and the final reports come back via email. So I'm not for sure we'll utilize that aspect of progress reports. How I do anticipate utilizing progress reports is for some of our faculty programs. We have internal funding competitions for faculty members. We have a program dedicated to the humanities and arts, because getting competitive federal funding to do scholarship and creative activity in humanities and arts, it's very difficult. So again, we have some internal grants that we award through the Division of Research for faculty members in the humanities and arts. So we've been doing this program for a number of years, and the faculty members, it's usually a 1-year grant, and at the end of the year, they have a progress report. Right now, with those faculty members, they often ask for an extension. And if you can imagine, with the pandemic going on, there's been a lot of reasons that faculty members have needed to have an extension, legitimate reasons. So those end dates are changing all over the place for different people. Some people need 1 month, some people need 6 months, one person needs a year. Well, within InfoReady, we're able to monitor and change those end dates so that the award doesn't all end on the same date. We can go into the individual faculty members grant and change the end date, and then we're able to track when their progress reports are do. So that's how I anticipate utilizing InfoReady. It's more for faculty progress reports.
Thanks, Christine. It was helpful to hear how you're going to interact as a follow-up in all these different ways. I'm sure Mr. Niblack, I don't know if he's a Dr. Niblack, but we'll call him Mr. Niblack, really it's gratifying for him to see all the work, undergraduate research work that he's helping to support. We're approaching the end of our time here. And I wanted to thank everyone for attending, especially thank you to Dr. Christine Johnson for presenting how Oklahoma State University is using InfoReady for undergraduate research processes. I'm going to put her contact info back on screen in case you missed it. She mentioned she was open to having folks contact her. So there it is. You can also email InfoReady if you have questions about reaching out to her, or if you have questions about using InfoReady for some of to set up opportunities related to undergraduate research or anything else really. On screen here is contact information for my colleague Max Dinerman. Here's my contact information as well. If you wanted to reach out to support, that's support@inforeadycorp.com. We're happy to answer any questions and help you maximize your use of InfoReady as needed. On screen here, I also sharing a little bit of information about our listserv. So the InfoReady listserv has a lot of admins on there. It's a great place to keep the conversation going, ask your peers at other institutions how they're using InfoReady, and also share your story if you'd like. One other nice thing in InfoReady that I don't know if you're all aware of is that admins can actually share their templates with other admins, not just within the institution, but externally as well. So it would be a place to, say, who's using it for undergraduate research? Oh, do you mind sharing your template with me? Another thing to share with you, we do have a referral program. So if you have a colleague at another institution that you think can benefit from InfoReady or has even brought it up to you in the past, contact us and you could get credit to your annual license. There's a discount involved, and the more people you refer and get InfoReady, the bigger the discount. I think if you do 3 referrals that all get InfoReady in the same year, then your renewal is free. So of course there's further details on that, but it's a nice program, and let us know if you have any questions about that. Now, we also want to know if anyone else is interested in being a peer spotlight panelist like Dr. Johnson today. It can be on any topic of your choosing. If you want to share your story and connect with colleagues that way, just reach out to us, let us know. There's also a question on this poll that I launched about that. So having shared all of that, I want to thank you all for your time today, for attending our webinar. Special thanks to Dr. Christine Johnson. It's amazing to see what you've managed to do. And that wasn't even your original purpose for getting InfoReady. So that added benefit, added unexpected benefit, sounds like it saved quite a bit of your and your staff's time this year. Thank everyone today. Have a good week.